everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be my April wrap up. I recently did a video called Books I've Recently Read, and in that video I said I was no longer going to do monthly wrap ups because I didn't like filming them and I didn't like editing them and stuff. And I thought I would do a wrap up every 20 books that I've read. However, I have changed my mind on that. I'm going back to doing monthly wrap-ups. I tried that one video and honestly, I didn't really like the way it turned out. Like, the video was fine, but just talking about 20 books and editing all of that, it was a lot of work. So I think I'm just gonna go back to monthly wrap-ups. I'm sorry that I'm very all over the place with my videos, but I've talked about that in my May reading plans video. I still want to try to not talk a lot about like my 3, 2, and 1-star reads. That is something I do want to actively try, is to just not go super in depth about them and to really talk more about my 4 and 5-star reads. I also just want to make my wrap-ups less professional. I'm not really sure how I could implement that, but I just don't want to sit here for like hours and hours talking about like 10 books and have to edit all of that footage. So I want to make these videos as quick as possible, but also giving you a lot of detail about each book. Also quickly, I want to say thank you to those who commented on my May reading plans video where I asked you guys for some video ideas, and a lot of you gave me some great suggestions and some great ideas, and it definitely sparked some more of my own ideas. So thank you to those who took the time to comment some ideas. I really, really appreciate it. So let's get into my April wrap up. I did read a total of 8 books in April. The first 5 I read in April I did talk about in my Books I've Recently Read video, so I will link that video down below. I'm just going to quickly mention them and the rating. If you want to know more detail about these first 5 books, definitely go watch that other video. The first book I read was Sweet Thing by Renee Carlino. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I also vlogged reading this book, so I will link that vlog down below. Then I read Sweet Little Thing by Renee Carlino. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This is kind of like a novella that takes place after Sweet Thing. The Air He Breathes by Brittany C. Cherry. This is the first book in the Element series, and this I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This I also read and vlogged in the same reading vlog as Sweet Thing. The Fire Between High and Low by Brittany C. Cherry. This is the second book in the Element series, and this I gave 3 out of 5 stars. The Silent Waters by Brittany C. Cherry. This is the third book in the Element series. This I had initially given 4 stars, but the more I think about it, the more I want to give it a 3 stars. So I think I'm going to change my rating to 3 stars. So those were the 5 books that I read earlier in the month and I talked about in my Books I've Recently Read video. Now I'm going to get on to the 3 other books I read later in April. Then I read A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime by Monica Murphy, and this I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This essentially follows Ren and Crew, who are total opposites. Ren is a good girl and Crew is a bad boy, and they're forced to work on a school project together, which makes them realize that they may not be that different after all. I expected this to be a little bit of a bully romance, but it wasn't. It was very sweet and adorable, and I loved the characters and the romance. My only complaint about this book is that it was a little too long, and sometimes it was a little repetitive, and it wasn't as angsty as I wanted it to be, but it was still really good. This book kind of starts out as like hate to love. Ren and Crew both don't really like each other because they think kind of the worst of each other. Ren is definitely like a very stereotypical good girl. She is very pure, very innocent, and Crew just really wants to corrupt her. He's really interested in being the one to corrupt her, and it was so sweet to read about him slowly falling in love with her and then realizing that he actually really cares about her and he doesn't want to hurt her. The main conflict in this book is their families, which it was kind of nice that there wasn't a lot of drama in this book. Like, it was very simple and I really appreciated that. There was like no third act breakup. Like, it wasn't crazy dramatic. It was just a very sweet, simple, cute romance, and all of the things that Crew did for Ren was just so lovely. I loved how he was just so attentive and caring, and he literally would do anything for Ren. Obviously, this book follows 2 like rich families, so I loved that aspect. I also really loved how Art played a major part in this book as well. I also just really enjoyed the characters, and I liked how different they were, and I liked reading from each of their point of view. This book was just so sweet, and I really enjoyed it, and it is definitely one of my favorite books of the year. Then I read Things I Wanted to Say by Monica Murphy, and this I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This follows Summer and Whit, who meet at a party when they are 14 years old, and Whit basically treats Summer like shit, and he reveals to her that her mom is having an affair with his father. They end up kissing that night and never forgetting about each other. 4 years later, they reunite as Summer transfers to the same school as Whit. I feel like I poorly explained this book, but this is a bully romance. There were elements I liked about this book, and then there were elements I really didn't like. I didn't feel the connection between Summer and Whit. I felt really bad for Summer. She honestly has just dealt with such shitty situations. I will give her props for like trying to be positive and trying to overcome all of those situations, but I just felt really bad for her, and I wish she would have had like one female friend. I wish she would have had some sort of support other than Whit. I just didn't feel the connection between Summer and Whit, and I just didn't really love Whit that much. I felt like he kind of just stayed the same the entire book, whereas I do feel like Summer grew and changed. I feel like Whit stayed the same. Towards the end, things obviously happen, and I feel like Whit really didn't grovel, and I don't think Summer should have forgiven him so fast. The romance wasn't that gripping or intense for me, and the bully aspect just completely fell flat. And then the last book I read in April was Tangled by Emma Chase. This was a reread for me. I had initially read this back in 2013, and I did give it 4 stars back then, but upon my reread, I gave it 2 stars. This is actually a Passionflix adaptation, so I did do a whole video on me rereading the book and watching the Passionflix movie, so I will link that video down below if you want to know more of my thoughts on this book. This essentially just follows Drew and Kate, who meet at a bar one night, and Drew starts hitting on her, but Kate kind of turns him down because she's engaged. And turns out Kate is the new employee at Drew's family's company. This entire book is in Drew's point of view, which I will say is very unique, especially for romance. Usually it's either in dual POV or in the female character's point of view, but this is solely in Drew's point of view, which does give this book a interesting and unique quality. However, that is the only good thing about this book, if that makes sense. Drew was kind of annoying and obnoxious, and I mean, I would say he's a little bit of a douche, but I don't really care when it comes to male characters. Like, I kind of expect that. That aspect didn't bother me. It just seemed like he was always super repetitive about everything. I will say I enjoyed the groveling aspect of this book. Drew obviously screws up at one point, and he really tries to win back Kate, and he's very persistent with it, and I liked that aspect, and that was probably the only part I actually really liked about this book. I just didn't feel any emotional connection to any of the characters, and I was pretty bored throughout this book. It just wasn't that great. I'm gonna be honest. It just wasn't that great of a book. However, the movie was definitely better. I highly recommend watching the Passionflix movie. So that was it for my April wrap up. Let me know how many books you read in April and which one was your favorite. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, follow me on all my other social media, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.